We are now recording. Welcome everybody to the USDA Food Safety Outreach Technical Assistance. Today we will be talking about how to bring in innovation and uniqueness into your grant. This grant is funded by the USDA and it's titled Empowering Minority Serving Institutions Food Safety Specialists to Write Successful Food Safety Outreach Grant Programs through education, training, and technical assistance. This is to support faculty and staff at minority serving institutions and institutions that are collaborating with minority serving institutions. But as always, we welcome everybody into this space. This is our team. I'm Angela Shaw with Texas Tech University. We have Dr. Armitra Jackson at Alabama A&M University, Dr. Shannon Coleman at Iowa State University, and then we have our Dr. Christine Strom, who is our grant writer specialist on our team. Today, we have a very innovative agenda. We're going to talk about innovation and novelty, why is it important, and what has been funded in the past, to give you some perspective. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christine as she gets started with the presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Angela, and welcome everybody. Happy New Year. Angela, we can go to the next slide. There we go. So why is novelty and innovation an issue here? It all comes down to what is the USDA looking for? What are reviewers looking for? And what do you have to achieve to end up in the top layer of proposals who will get funding? As an introduction, I want to point out to you that into that funding decisions go three variables. And as the writers, we typically only think of two. One is the USDA priorities. If you do not address one of their stated priorities, you will not get funded, even if your proposal is innovative and unique and novel, it will not help. The second is, do you bring something to the science? Is what you propose to do new and novel and adds to our body of knowledge? And the second, that's often overlooked, is, are you better than the competition? Do you beat out all the other people who also want a piece out of this pot of money? In other words, by clearly stating that your proposal is aligned with the priorities of the call and that what you have to offer adds to our body of knowledge, is novel, serves the stakeholders, and is of the interest and to the benefit of society, that will set you apart from the competition. And that's a big goal that we have to always keep in mind when we're writing proposals. Next one. The USDA's mission goes towards, it has a multifaceted mission, but the part that we're concerned about right here is to ensure food safety. And with that in mind, your proposal addressing any call in that space has to show a commitment to advancing agricultural practices, improving food safety and security, and addressing all these emerging issues that come up on a regular basis that are not necessarily addressed in 10 or 15-year strategic priority plans. Next one, Angela.
So what are the priorities under this call? So in our previous webinar, we talked about how to extract important information or crucial information from the RFP. And from this RFP, they've clearly stated that the priorities are for to develop and implement food safety training, education, extension and outreach, and technical assistance that addresses the needs of Owners, operators of small to medium-sized farms, beginning farms, socially disadvantaged farms, small processors, veteran farmers, or ranchers, small fresh fruit and vegetable merchant wholesalers. These audiences that are affected by the food safety guidelines established by the Food Safety Modernization Act. So when we get into our discussion about being innovative and novelty, they state here who you should be serving and what they want you to do in this. So you have to think about this as we think about how are you going to set yourself apart from your partners. Take it away, Christine.
All right. So the big question, what is novel? What is innovation? Do I have to present something that is Nobel Prize worthy, that goes beyond anything that has been done so far? No, you don't. But you have to show a new application, a new method, a new technology. Some aspect of your work has to add something new to what we've known before you did your work. And that can start with cutting edge technology. You want to clearly articulate how your project incorporates state of the art technologies or methodologies. For example, precision agriculture, data analytics, sensor technologies. All these things are changing at a very rapid pace. Data analytics alone, with big data coming in from all kinds of sources. Sensor technology changes daily. So there is a lot of space to bring some new aspect into your proposal. And by doing this, you enhance the likelihood that what you develop, what you want to implement in the industry will actually be adopted by the people who will benefit from it. Angela, you have something to say to that.
Yes. So when you think about the food safety outreach grant proposals in our niche audience, which is farmers and ranchers, when we say, what are the needs? Well, we know that there are water needs. We know that there's record keeping needs. We know that there's cleaning and sanitizing needs. There are needs for how to control wildlife. All of these you can find technology strategies from other fields and apply them to your niche population. So think about what the needs are for the target population that we talked about in that priority, and think about what cutting edge type of thing can you add to that. What's
Thank
next?
you. Next idea of how to bring in novelty and innovation, and that is a novel research method. And that can mean that you combine a traditional, well-established method with a new aspect. And by doing that, adding a new technology or covering a gap in technological ability that so far had prohibited progress in whatever area you are working in. And by making these groundbreaking contributions, you add to the scientific understanding and innovation in your field, and you demonstrate scientific excellence, which is one of the bigger pieces that the USDA is designed to support and fund.
So for this, the example is a lot of people want to put together specific trainings for specific populations. So what is innovative about the method you're going to use? Are you going to use a new educational methodology to use it, like maybe using plain language or putting it in another language? So what research, when I use the word research method, think about education and extension method that might be novel or unique that you're going to apply as you go to train or educate your specific audience.
Thank you. Next thing to think about is having a very close eye on emerging trends and addressing current challenges. Your field is changing very quickly, and challenges pop up every day, and they change and they are enhanced every day, especially with climate change and all that comes with it. By showcasing your awareness and by integrating these new trends, you show that you're at the top, at the forefront of where your field in general, your academic field, and the industry is going in terms of development. Review panels and funding agency program managers are interested in supporting projects that bring fresh perspectives, that um, go go a step ahead of what has been traditionally done and open up new doors to solve these new and emerging problems.
And as we have seen in the food safety industry, we've had outbreaks that have never occurred within fruits and vegetables in the cheese industry. We've also seen water as a forefront of understanding how is it coming in? How are we managing it? These are all emerging issues that you could, if you desire, but there are a lot of new current trends and things like water availability, and thinking about how we're going to manage that as we think about an emerging. Controlled environmental ag is another area. So think about these emerging trends that you can highlight within your proposal.
And the next thing that you're all aware of, none of the problems that we're facing today and none of the problems we will face in the future will be solvable or addressable by just one expert. You need the expertise of many fields, of people that you work collaboratively with to solve these problems. And bringing these experts together will lead to innovative solutions that you can highlight in your proposal that go beyond the traditional approaches in agriculture and food production.
So in the RFP, they clearly state that you must put information behind who the key personnel for this are. So who is on your team does matter. So if you're addressing one concern and you're not a horticulturalist, well, maybe you need to bring a horticulturalist onto your team, or maybe you need to bring an engineer onto your team. That is a critical part of when they're looking at the evaluation plan, like we did in our last webinar. That was a big component where they looked at, are you fully equipped to answer the question that you are going after, to provide the training, to develop whatever your guidance for? So if you can't speak that language, who's going to interpret for you? Are you going to bring in somebody for that? So this cross-disciplinary within this is so important. You're going to have to highlight it. It has to be a section in your narrative. So think about that. Who's on your team?
Another point that I want to add here before we move on, Angela, is especially when you focus on training and training of underrepresented minorities, for instance, or groups that come from different cultural or language backgrounds, make sure you have somebody who is able to help you bridge societal gaps or language gaps. Bring in a social scientist to underscore what you're doing benefits the groups that you want to benefit from them. Now I'm ready for the next one. Potential for scalability. That's a big thing for any funding agency. They don't want to throw money at you to solve one local problem, and once the money is gone, nothing happens and nobody will benefit from it. They want to see solutions that can be adapted and adopted across agricultural context in different regions, for different crops, for different producers. There's all kinds of outpouring of the knowledge that you acquire to be adopted elsewhere. Also think of your stakeholders. I call them industry partners here. That's always the thing that comes to my mind first. But think of your stakeholders that will give you input and whose input will help you come to develop something that has impact on the stakeholders.
So an example I have for this is think about your population and who you're serving. When I was in Iowa, I worked a lot with the Amish and Mennonite population, and I was able to work with people in Ohio, in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Montana, because they also had similar populations. So I was able to demonstrate that this is not just an Iowa problem, it's a Midwest or a bigger problem. And so if they provided me funding, I could provide a model that could be transferred and duplicated in different places. So think about your niche population and say, where else in the United States or world could what I'm producing or I'm developing be transmitted? And put that out there very clear to USDA in your writing that, although I'm focused on this population, it also will affect X, Y, and Z as well as a result of my proposal.
Yes. Relevance to stakeholders. It is much easier for you to show alignment of what you want to do with your stakeholder needs and the priorities of the funding agencies. It also helps and amplifies the impact on the broader community. So by doing that and getting stakeholder input when you design your project, stakeholder feedback while you are doing your project, and then adjustments, whether it's at the end or on the fly, when you see how your stakeholders respond to what you're doing and what you are producing. Seek the stakeholder input early so the reviewer doesn't perceive your project as something that comes out of your knowledge base, but something that is informed by the needs of the people your project wants to serve.
When you say that, what comes to mind is those letters of support. And as a reviewer on many of those panels, I read them. I want to know if people truly support your ideas or not. So this is where you can bring in those letters, not making them just basic templates, but personalized. What would the impact be to your population or your stakeholders as a result of this project? Think about, do you need to have a stakeholder advisory board that's providing you with that feedback coming back, what was mentioned here? Or do you have some preliminary work that you can display from the stakeholders that say, we need this as a support behind why you're having? So that stakeholders is so critical. You'll see it in the review evaluation, some big points there. They are looking at those letters.
They sure do. Long-term sustainability. In other words, it's a repetition kind of what I said earlier. What will happen after the money is drying up? Is there a way of making the project and its results durable and sustainable to maximize the long-term impact? What could that look like? What does that mean? That's a pretty abstract thing to say. Well, one thing is community engagement and empowerment. Involve the community in the project from its inception. Engage stakeholders in decision-making processes and empower them with the skills and knowledge necessary to continue and expand your project's outcomes. Capacity building. Focus on building local capacity and expertise. Provide training and education to community members, organizations, or institutions to enable them to independently manage and maintain the project's results. Institutional strengthening. Collaborate with local institutions, whether they're government agencies, non-governmental agencies, community organizations, to strengthen their capacity to sustain the project's outcomes. This could involve policy, advocacy, institutional support, or the creation of local partnerships. Financial viability. Develop a financial model for the project. Explore avenues for generating income, securing funding, or establishing partnerships that can support the ongoing maintenance and operation of the project beyond the initial implementation phase. Integration into local systems. Ensure that the project's outcomes are integrated into existing local systems and practices. Align the project with community norms, economic structures, and governance frameworks to enhance its acceptance and long-term integration. Community ownership. foster a sense of ownership among community members. When people feel a personal stake in the project's success, they are more likely to take responsibility for its continued success and sustainability. Social and cultural integration. Integrate the project into the social and cultural fabric of the community. Projects that respect and align with local cultures are more likely to be sustained as they become integral parts of the community life. And that's particularly important for you in this project where you look at helping minority farmers and farmers from different social and cultural backgrounds. And then adaptability and flexibility. Design the project with adaptability in mind. Circumstances may change, and being flexible will allow the project to adjust to evolving needs, technological advancement, or external challenges.
Wow, Christy,
That's just a little. I can go on, but that's just a little.
that is a lot. But guess what? Since you are participating in this webinar, you are going to get a copy of what she just read off related to that long-term sustainability. And one thing you will know is not for this grant, but for most USDA grants, they require you to have a section that discusses what happens when the money stops. Is the outcomes going to stop or not? So we're going to provide you with those examples so that you can think about your project and how you are going to convince the USDA that this is not going to be a one and done, that the community is going to take it over, or our partner is going to take it over and keep it going past the time of this grant. So you are going to receive that. Now, there's another aspect to sustainability we also need to talk about.
Yes, there is. Agriculture faces sustainability challenges all around us, and that is or ranges from resource depletion to environmental impact to changes in weather and climate, all these things that accumulate and make the problems bigger as we go. Novel proposals that incorporate sustainable practices, alternative approaches, and cutting-edge technologies will demonstrate a commitment to long-term sustainability and resilience in agricultural systems. These key terms, resilience, that comes up in many of the current USDA calls for proposals. And by emphasizing how your proposal addresses these concerns and promotes sustainable practices, again, you set yourself up against your competition who may not address this directly.
So I love this because, as you know, in our changing produce world, this idea of how environmentally are we being aware of what we're doing is critical. Water is critical. Space is getting critical. The number of food deserts are present. I don't have to preach to the choir because y'all all know this, but making sure that you add in that part of sustainability and how you are going to help us in this bigger problem is very critical when you think about novelty. Okay, what about impact?
Impact is more than just a promise. Impact should bring tangible benefits, and tangible means somehow measurable. How can you show that what you will do will have tangible benefits for your stakeholders? And you can think in terms of production or yields or economic viability of farms, resource efficiency, economic gains for farmers, local economies, enhanced food safety, and other measurable outcomes that show that there's the practical application of your results will have a tangible impact on the stakeholders and on society as a whole.
Yes, and this is so important when you think about how will you make sure people think that what you're going to address is a big enough problem. So you're going to do a training, love it. You're going to do some education, but how do you know it works? Are you going to be measuring knowledge, behavior, and attitude afterwards? Are you going to do a 6 to 9 month follow-up to see how they've been impacted by what you're doing? You have to put these measurable, tangible demonstrations that what you propose, the novel technique, method you propose, is the right one for this population, or it's not. If you discovered through it that they did not like it. And so that's also publishable as well. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Please publish that work.
So nobody makes the same approach again and finds it out again.
Yes.
Community engagement and outreach, we covered that already a little bit in the sustainability aspect of it. So describe how you will engage the communities, the stakeholders that you try to serve with your project, and how that will benefit local communities. And that could be in the form of novel extension programs, educational initiatives, or other technology transfer strategies that make sure that what you develop here will reach and positively impact the wider agricultural community. In doing so, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So I just think about stakeholder engagement. So if you are proposing to work with a population, if you have never worked with them before, you need to have a partner on your team that has worked with them before, so that you can ensure that they're going to accept you and that it's even going to be a possibility for that. So think about your engagement and outreach and who's on your team, and if you are in the right position to actually serve that population. Sorry, Christine.
No, I want to add to that actually. Having that team member is not only important for the stakeholder community to accept you, it also shows reviewers that you are ready to work with this group. You don't have to build relationships first before you can start with your project. You have that already established, and once you have the money, you're good to go.
So we've gone over what some ideas, and hopefully this helps your mind's just going crazy. But this is where I like to start, is what has been funded. And in addition to this recording, you are going to get a link to all of the previous USDA FSOP published or granted grants that have been funded. And so you need to look at those. So we just did a screenshot of from the CRIS system to look at some that have previously been funded. And the good thing about these is if you look to the right of the table, it says a brief or a full. So for every developed project, there is a description, a non-technical summary. Now, this is what you have to create when you get funded that talks about what their objectives are and what they hope to accomplish within that. It's a great starting point as you think about, number one, are you being novel and innovative, or has somebody already been funded already to do that work? It also will get into some of the objectives that people are doing to give you some ideas for what objectives you might have for your project. So I always say, when you start off, go in, and we're going to give you the link to two. We have many years of looking at these populations. It has the unit that's been funded. It has the name of the person. You might want to email them. You might want to reach out to them to see if there are partnerships you can gain, especially for the early ones that were in 2016. Those that have ended, maybe there's a part two that you could take on for a grant to expand on what they have already accomplished.
And the other thing I want to add to this, when you see that somebody was funded on a project that is very similar to what you had planned on doing, that should give you pause, not to drop it completely, but to think about, how can I tweak it? How can I tailor it to address an emerging, not yet covered part of this problem, or include a population that has not been covered before? You don't have to totally give up on your idea, but you have to make sure that what you do will add to the piece of knowledge that has already been created in the past.
I love that. I love taking things that have been developed for other populations and thinking about how we can have. So, with that, we want to make you aware of that we have had some previously recorded sessions already on extraction. Yesterday, we did have to cancel the first page, but it will be up and recorded for everybody who signed up for that one. We have that developed. And then we have today, we talked about novelty. On Monday, we're going to talk about meaningful stakeholder involvement and broadening your transferability. We're going to talk about logic models and how to make them impactful and learning from rejection. And we still are scheduling, but we will talk about budget and budget justification because that can make or break a proposal if we go for that. We do have office hours. Please sign up. If you wanted to meet with myself and Christine or one of our team members, we are available from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Basically every day until this proposal is submitted. And we have a sign up genius that you can sign up for that. And we'll give you an hour. You could present your ideas. We can help craft. If you have something written, we can review what you have written during that time, give you oral feedback, written feedback on what you have designed for that. And so these office consultations are for you, and we hope that you'll take advantage of that. My name is Angela Shaw, and I'm the PI of this. And at this time, I'm going to stop